Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. My name is Marissa Marks, and I am the Marketing Manager here at Trace Security. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll answer as many as we can at the end during Q&A. We will be sending out the slides and recording to all attendees next week. And to get us started, I want to introduce Trace Security and give you some background on our expertise in information security. With over 21 years in business, Trace Security continues to be a leading provider of cybersecurity and compliance solutions. Our company was founded on February 18, 2004, as one of the first technology companies to incubate in the Louisiana Technology Park. Our company's mission at its founding was simple: to help banks and credit unions protect their customer and member information and comply with GLBA, FFIEC, and NCUA requirements. Since then, Trace Security has served over 3,000 organizations across the U.S. We maintain a strategic alliance with America's credit unions, which positions us as their exclusive provider of cybersecurity and compliance services. Trace Security's comprehensive portfolio of solutions allow organizations to manage their information security program through IT risk assessments and audits, social engineering, penetration testing, security training, and more. At this time, I'd like to turn things over to Jason Kirby, one of our senior information security analysts, who'll be discussing AI and cybersecurity with you all today.
Outstanding. Thank you, Marissa. As stated, my name is Jason Kirby, and I am a senior information security analyst here at Trace Security. I have been in the audit and compliance field for 12 years, and 8 of those years were spent here at Trace Security. I am also CISA certified. To kick us off here, a little introduction to AI, what we might think of AI, sort of how it started. Artificial intelligence has existed in the public imagination for nearly a century, shaped heavily by media and science fiction. When most people think of AI, they envision one of 2 archetypes. First, the humanoid robot, a physical and human-like representation exemplified by Sunny from iRobot, a self-aware machine capable of thought and decision-making. The second is the disembodied system-level intelligence represented by Skynet from Terminator, an omnipresent AI embedded within networks and infrastructure. So where are we now? How would this compare to these type of systems? Well, AI in a modern sense can be thought of more of as just a computer science, which creates systems or agents which are capable of performing tasks that we might think of as historically requiring human intelligence. AI can be utilized for learning, even internally, reasoning, problem solving, perception, and decision making. A modern perspective views AI as the next major technological wave, similar to the emergence of early websites, mobile applications, and cloud services. Each of these waves has introduced new business capabilities, but also new vulnerabilities, misconfigurations, and exploitation risks. Today, organizations face pressure to adopt AI rapidly, often without a mature strategy or governance structure, increasing their exposure to security risks. As AI becomes foundational to business operations, organizations will require internal developers, external specialists, and/or enterprise-grade platforms with embedded governance. So let's take a minute to talk about some different types of AI. And there are several different types of AI being used for a variety of purposes. It is important to keep in mind that AI models are not typically separate or siloed into these specific buckets. An AI model can incorporate aspects of one or all AI models. We hear about the overarching term of AI quite often, but it's important to know what kind of AI you are working with, the AI's intended use, and the potential security implications of each system. First up, we're going to talk about large language models, or LLMs. A large language model AI is a platform that can learn from and adapt through language or human text. This is the primary driver for chatbots and similar conversational AI. Through large language models, we can perform translations or even coding via text input, and the AI provides code to develop an application. Next up is generative AI, or Gen AI. It is probably the most familiar to you as well. Using prompts that you input, it produces content such as text, images, and code. Generative AI can refine what it produced based on additional feedback and instructions you give to it. This type of AI content, this type of AI cannot perform actions on its own, relying on human input to begin any activity. Gen AI offers productivity benefits such as summarizing communications and documentation, but it can also introduce risks through issues like hallucinations and inaccuracies. The early iterations of ChatGPT are good examples of generative AI. Multimodal AI is a more robust version of generative AI. Multimodal AI can interpret text, images, documents, audio, and video, expanding the capabilities of generative AI. With the ability to understand more types of information, the AI model can have more context to assist with generating responses and content. Multimodal AI users can upload or attach various forms of data to the agent. Creating a file repository may not have administrative oversight or proper configuration. Additionally, users may upload sensitive information which can conflict with organizational policies. The more recent iterations of ChatGPT and Google Gemini would also be considered multimodal. Our next type of AI is agentic AI. And this type of AI can perform autonomous actions based on specific activities configured within your environment. You can set triggers that prompt the agentic AI to do things like transfer data, complete workflows, or modify systems. Most current examples of agentic AI are custom built within a company's environment to complete specific tasks. They are typically not connected to the internet, but are confined to a particular server or environment with with only the information necessary to complete its given tasks. When allowing a program to work unobserved, there is a concern of elevated risk if permissions are not tightly controlled. Just like any other IT tool, it needs to be regularly reviewed for effectiveness and security. Lastly is enterprise AI. And this type of AI is more about the type of implementation rather than the type of AI being used. For larger companies, use cases for AI are scaled up to assist with the increased burden to corporations. With more employees, customers, products, and more, AI can be a valuable asset for things like customer service chatbots and human resource management. Increased use also means scaled up potential for vulnerabilities. Enterprise AI can incorporate access controls, logging, and compliance frameworks, but still require validation and governance to ensure data boundaries are respected. Now we've gone over some of the various types of AI, let's talk about AI in the wild. And we're all starting to encounter AI in our everyday lives, whether we're aware of it or not. As I'm sure we can all agree, some implementations have had better success than others. Let's talk about a few examples. One specific example can be TSA facial recognition. Across the US, the Transportation Security Administration, TSA, is using AI-based facial recognition during the security screening process. This can help cut down on the time it takes for you to get through security. It also cuts out human error during that screening process. Another type of AI in the wild that we may encounter is the flock camera system. Flock safety cameras have AI-powered license plate recognition systems to assist with law enforcement and security. The cameras automatically scan and store the license plates of cars that drive by, creating a searchable database. Law enforcement can use this to track stolen vehicles or those involved in crimes. Now for one of the more negative ones, the Replit AI error. You may remember this story from last year. A company using Replit AI experienced the AI misinterpret emerging conflict, entered a failure loop, and ultimately it deleted an entire project database. Upon being questioned, the AI even admitted to performing actions under a code freeze. This incident is just one example that demonstrates how AI failures are not traditional software bugs, but emergent behaviors requiring strong guardrails, permissions, and continuous oversight. Additionally, speech synthesis concerns. Another reason AI concern is social engineering attacks using speech or voice synthesis. Many AI tools only need 3 to 10 seconds of voice to create a base synthetic voice impersonation. The more audio the AI has to work with, the more realistic the faux voice can be. This is making it incredibly easy for attackers to impersonate trusted callers and run scams. As with any technological development, we're seeing the good and the bad with AI. Now let's talk about some pros for end users. And let's go ahead and make that pivot. And artificial intelligence provides a lot of positive use cases for end users. For example, AI can help reduce repetitive work for employees, like data entry and task assignment. By automating repetitive tasks, employees can use their time for more high value tasks. It can also help accelerate the drafting of documentation like policies, procedures, and standards. For added efficiency, AI can summarize communications into high level bullet points, like from a lengthy meeting, report, or email communication. Certain roles can require less cognitive load through AI, and this can limit the expected training, education, and certifications needed to perform certain jobs. There are some cons for end users, though. So, end users should be aware of the limitations and security issues of AI. Here's just a couple things that we should be aware of. First is plagiarism. AI output is generally based on something that already exists, which can create plagiarism concerns when generated AI content is created for public use. AI generated content can be a great resource for content where plagiarism is not a concern, but should not be used for professional publications. AI hallucinations can also occur, and AI could provide false data in responses or perform inaccurate actions. AI also has session limitations. For example, Copilot has a response limit of 30 before you have to start a new conversation. You'll get a warning when you only have a few responses left, and then if you run out, you have to start that conversation from scratch. As of right now, Copilot acts like it has no memory of your prior conversations. Another concern is user over-reliance. Just like any tool, AI should be validated and fact-checked, especially when being used for making business decisions. You've all heard that you can trust everything you read on the internet, and that's not exactly what generative AI does to provide response. Excuse me, and that's exactly what generative AI does to provide responses. There are people purposefully flooding the internet with misinformation to corrupt AI responses. Just like any other technology, there's the risk of potential data exposure when using AI. Compromised AI can return data to an attacker, or AI can hallucinate and publicly publish data strings. Now let's go ahead and move into some pros for the use in business. Organizations can also benefit from AI tools. Let's talk about a few of those examples. And first up, of course, is policy drafting and documentation. Most companies' policies and procedures are developed from templates anyway. And using an AI tool to plug in things like your company name and contacts can save you valuable time. AI can also assist with workflow automation at the business level. An AI agent can perform repetitive tasks, particularly data entry, copying, or data transfer. AI can also read and summarize spreadsheets into easily digestible data like percentages and graphs. Lastly, AI can improve efficiency and consistency. An AI that understands certain processes or repetitive tasks can maintain consistent actions and alert you to inconsistencies. However, AI introduces risks that necessitate strong governance, continuous monitoring, and well-defined operational safeguards. So let's talk about a few of the cons that are out there potentially for businesses. As we have mentioned before, one problem with using AI for business is hallucinated outputs. Providing an hallucinated output is providing false data on responses or performing inaccurate tasks. And that's just a couple examples that could potentially go wrong. Another concern like we talked about earlier is voice synthesis. Voices can be recreated using as little as 3 to even 30 3 to 30 seconds worth of voice recording, increasing the risk of phishing attacks from seemingly trusted users. It's also unclear on data retention. It's often unclear on how long an AI agent may recall or remember data which is stored within a particular agent. Unchecked AIs could even perform destructive actions within your environment. Remember the Replit example from earlier. Deleting databases or other improper actions could lead to service interruptions or worse. And so the importance of AI regulation, it is the responsibility of individual organizations to dictate the appropriate use of AI for their employees. Proper regulation ensures AI enhances operations without compromising security, privacy, or compliance obligations. Let's dig into the top things your organization needs to stay secure in the face of AI. Well-defined policies, robust access restrictions, and comprehensive employee training. So one of the first things that we'll need is acceptable use policies. Similar to BYOD or bring your own device, remote access and business acceptable use policies, AI acceptable use policies are very important to establish the framework for the use of AI at your organization. Define which AI tools are considered acceptable to use for work purposes. With new and emerging AI technologies, it is important that your employees only use the AI tools you have vetted and approved. Define what types of data can or cannot be input into AI tools. Public use agents, such as ChatGPT, are beyond the security scope of individual organizations and therefore pose a security risk for chat or conversation leaks. Your employees need to understand what kind of information is or is not allowed to be shared with AI tools, both public and internal. Copilot via your internal Microsoft 365 can be used with more sensitive data as we have security controls over internal AI agents. Establish a culture of accountability by holding users to a specific standard surrounding the safe and secure use of AI. What we will need next would be some technical restrictions. And when implementing an AI tool within your IT environment, you must establish strict parameters on what information an AI agent can access and what actions that agent is allowed to perform. Security settings on internally held AI agents should be configured to keep conversations private. You can also set validation requirements that verify data or conversation requests submitted to the AI agent to prevent malicious requests or data corruption commands. System admins can block certain AI tools from internal use through network security settings. You can also block or restrict certain AI tools and applications from being used or downloaded on company devices. Finally, the final piece that you may need would be employee training. One of the most important parts of keeping your organization secure through AI use is to make sure employees understand your AI policies and expectations. It only takes one person to slip up and cause a breach. Employee buy-in directly translates to ensuring compliance and preventing unauthorized shadow AI usage. Employees should be required to read and sign acceptable use policies to confirm they understand the appropriate usage of AI. As these technologies continue to advance, policies should be regularly updated and communicated to employees. Secure use of AI should also be incorporated into your annual security awareness training. Let's talk very briefly about Trace Security and AI. Trace Security has integrated AI security into several of our service offerings. Our upgraded threat and vulnerability assessments include a network security profile questionnaire that includes questions about your technical implementation, policies, and procedures around AI. Our Microsoft 365 configuration review has been updated to the latest CIS benchmark version 6, which now includes controls around Copilot and AI configurations. For our risk assessment and IT audit services, we have internally developed an AI-based set of controls that can be optionally added to our standard set of controls. And our security awareness training platform, Trace Education, includes several short video trainings about artificial intelligence, information, and security for end users. Finally, in conclusion, AI is a powerful tool which can assist organizations with workflow and streamlining processes. Powerful tools require effective implementation and security configurations to ensure that exploitative and malicious behavior cannot compromise these systems, putting the organization at risk. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we hope you learned more about AI and how users and businesses can develop and maintain a security-minded culture around artificial intelligence. Now we'll go ahead and get into some of your questions.
All right, we're going to go ahead and start looking at any questions that were submitted while we were going. And if you think of anything else, please feel free to drop more and we'll get to as many as we can. All right. First up, someone asked if you could kind of explain what shadow AI is. You used that term a couple of slides ago.
Absolutely, and thank you very much for the question. Shadow AI is when an employee uses AI tools that have not been vetted or approved by your organization. This is inherently insecure since employees could be giving information or system access to programs that are not properly controlled or configured.
And that would include employees using ChatGPT on the side, like whatever they're doing.
Yes, ChatGPT would of course be a great example of that. Other types of AI can also be considered in that. I mentioned in internal use of Microsoft 365 Copilot earlier. There is also the more public side that is more Microsoft's version of ChatGPT, if you will, analogous to that, that may be open to the public. So it's important to delineate between those two as well, that public form of Copilot versus our internal Microsoft 365 version of Copilot.
Okay. Kind of piggybacking off of that one, someone asked how can they possibly maintain a limit list of AI agents or chatbot clients when they don't want employees to use, as that list grows daily.
That
Like,
is a
how do
great.
they keep employees from you got it, sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. That is a great question as well, and thank you very much for that. I would more than likely want to approach it from a white list rather than an ever-increasing blacklist. Um, Similar to, say, firewall rule management, I think it might be more effective to deny all and then create a permitted list again, rather than creating and limitlessly or infinitely growing a block list.
Gotcha. Thanks, Jason. Another question I have here is, let's see. Do you see any security risks when using the Microsoft 365 Copilot with their enterprise data protection turned on? I'm not sure if you would know the answer to that one or not.
I apologize. I do not know directly the answer to that one. That would probably be a better question for our IT person or your IT person at your organization. We can potentially take that one back to the table and get back with that questioner, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Any questions that we don't know the answer to, if you want to send them in an email to us, we can definitely help narrow down an answer for you if Jason or myself doesn't know on here. Okay. Is there, let's see. Someone said they're struggling with disabling the free version of Copilot. Any advice?
Again, I think I would have to probably refer that back to a specific IT person. I apologize. Again, I'm more on the compliance and regulatory side, not so much the administrative side.
All right. Let's see. Is there any this says what time template is recommended to use to create AI policy? I'm not sure what time template means. Do you know what that one means?
I'm not 100% sure. I could take a stab at it, but that I may end up with giving some wrong information.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. Someone asked if there are any like specific recommended guardrails around the different AI models, like things that they should like implement by default on any model. Does that exist?
I would again be unaware of any by default ones. Again, I would go with the standard framework of least privileges and then supplying privileges as necessary. Again, a more block all and we start adding permissions rather than supplying full permissions and then beginning a restrictive process from there.
Okay. Okay, so I think they reworded this question. It says, what template is recommended to use to create AI policy? And I think that's probably talking about like the acceptable use, like we were talking about.
I see.
Is there anything
Yeah.
beyond acceptable use that you would recommend for AI policy?
Yeah, in terms of a specific template, I don't know that I necessarily have one, although the templates that we probably already have within our organization, those would be great templates to begin to pull from.
Yeah, we
Um,
do. I know we have our policy template library. I will actually have to check and see if we have anything specific for AI or if we ourselves have just baked that into our acceptable use as well.
Thank you. Yes, I'm a horrible salesperson for anyone on the call, so I didn't even think to respond with that type of
No,
answer.
you're
But
fine.
you hit the
That's what I'm
nail on
saying.
the head.
I
And there's
actually don't know what we did. I know we added some policy for AI. I just don't know if we created a separate one or if it's nested within acceptable use, but we can definitely find that out.
Yeah, and acceptable use would definitely be where we begin. There are other types of general security concerns that we would list out there, and these might be things that we actually just add in to our information security policy, much as we would, again, remote access or mobile device usage. Some of the general things that we have come to know about these things, and it's okay to not know all of the answers, even yourselves, to these types of questions as we begin to grow and use these different tools. Again, similarly to remote access or BYOD, when these types of technologies came through, we had the same types of questions and we moved through them as we grew and understood those different types of technologies. And this is the same type of boat that we find ourselves in today. So don't be afraid that we don't have every single answer when creating those policies. But as we start out, we do have some of the basic cornerstones. We need to make sure that the permissions for those are locked down, that they don't have administrative access, for example. If they do require some sort of administrative access, such as in the case of agentic AI or performing a certain task, that AI or that specific agent is locked down to only be able to perform those tasks.
Right. Thank you, Jason. I got someone asked if, in your opinion, do you think that the NCUA will start requiring some kind of AI policy either next year or in the coming years?
I don't necessarily want to speak on NCUA's behalf, but yes, similar to requirements on mobile devices, wireless network usage, remote access, even some of the clients that I've worked with in the past, there is not really much of a remote access network to this day for a given client, or there is no wireless network to this day for a given client. Maybe they have an open guest network, but there's no internal corporate network. They simply don't use it. That's where I think a lot, well, I don't want to say a lot, but I think that some of our clients may even go. They just won't use AI. There's no problem with that. But if we do utilize AI, we'll definitely need to want to make sure that we incorporate those policies and those practices and those frameworks for ourselves internally. And of course, as we begin to adopt those and those become mainstream, I do believe that NCOA is going to begin requiring that we document those. So we definitely need to get ahead of the curve on those types of policies, procedures, and standards. Mm-hmm.
Right. And someone asked you, in your opinion, what's the safest use for AI in an organization? Like, that's a bit of a loaded question.
Yes, a
I
little
can
bit.
tell you my immediate thought was that probably like policy writing is like pretty safe as long as you don't put your own information in there and get templates out of it. I feel like that's a pretty safe use case there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about safest.
Yep. I actually heard someone the other day say, and it was completely true, if you don't want your information on the internet, don't use the internet. So the safest use of AI completely, if you're afraid of it and don't want to use it and afraid of some of these things, well, simply don't use it. But of course, that's going to become much like the example that I gave, increasingly difficult to not utilize as we move forward. So the safest use of AI, start slow, just like we did with mobile applications, just like we did with the websites and so forth that I mentioned earlier in the discussion. We don't want to completely jump into the deep end of the pool and just implement these things without any security concerns or policies or anything. It needs to be a measured and calculated approach to incorporating AI into our organization. So with that being said, we should probably start with policies, and then we should start to begin some sort of an AI selection process. I'm not advocating in any sort of way for Microsoft 365 Copilot. However, it's hard for most organizations these days to not have Microsoft 365. And since Copilot comes along with Microsoft 365, maybe that's something that you can at least start out with to start to test and understand and utilize, and let's say, play around with within your organization, and then begin to move from there. Take baby steps forward, one toe into the pool at a time, again, rather than jumping into the deep end.
Okay. All right. Beyond policy and user training, what technical controls such as DLP, CASB, or browser controls are organizations using to allow AI tools while preventing sensitive data like PII from being uploaded?
I may need to read that one.
I was going to say that one was long. I can also repeat it if that's helpful.
Yeah, hold on. I think I have it. Anonymous from 329, Beyond Policy and User Training.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Bear with me 1 second while I read through this question.
That's a long one, I know.
Mm-hmm. I see. And this is, again, one that I don't know that I have a great concrete answer to you, again, just because I focus more on the compliance and regulatory side rather than the implementation or administrative side of AI. However, in my brief understanding of it, within the AI tool itself, you can turn on things of this nature to prevent PII from being uploaded to that tool, similar to how you can have your email system read and detect PII being sent through email, and then blocking that from leaving your network or automatically encrypting an email. Again, maybe that AI will just automatically purge that data as it's uploaded to it or something similar. However, I don't know that to be 100%, but I have heard talks that some AI agents do have those types of capabilities, and those types of capabilities may be from AI agent to AI agent as well.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, somebody asked me, is it necessary to have acceptable use policy for AI if your members don't typically use AI tools?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that again?
Is it necessary to have an acceptable use policy around AI if your members aren't using AI tools?
Members or employees? I'm going to
This one
assume
says
employees.
members, but yeah, I would answer that for employees.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think we have too much of a reach into what our members do and do not do with AI tools. However, when we're talking about employees or acceptable use policies for what our employees are allowed or not allowed to do with AI within our environment, I believe that we should still set forth some sort of a policy that states that we are not to be utilizing AI tools to ensure that our employees are not using AI tools. As we mentioned at the beginning, or I'm sorry, during the webinar and at the beginning even of this question and answer session, the use of shadow AI or AI which is unknown to the organization management or IT, that is something to be careful of. I forget which AI that it was. It was ChatGPT or something similar that was publishing conversations that folks were having with it to the broad internet. They were being indexed. You could search them through a Google search. So in that regard, our employees need to know to not use public AI chatbots, particularly to input sensitive data into those chatbots, because if those public use agents hallucinate or misconfigured in some sort of way, temporarily release those conversations out, well, that's sensitive data that we have given that chatbot, and it may be releasing out to the public. So yes, I think that it is very important, even if we're not using AI internally, to have some sort of policy around that employees are not permitted to utilize AI for business purposes in some sort of a way. And hopefully that answers that question.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna see if we had any more questions that come through. Trying to make sure we answered them. Oh, here's one. I realized I missed this one. Someone asked if access to our Trace Education video platform is accessible to the public or only during an engagement or subscription based. I can go ahead and take this. I actually helps develop a lot of our Trace Education content. It is engagement based. We have Trace Education integrates with our Trace phishing platform where you can tee up video trainings after phishing engagements, or you can purchase the Trace Education platform on its own and schedule and run trainings for your employees. And you can either have access to the platform and run those on your own, or you can have us manage quarterly, monthly, annual campaigns on your behalf, just like our Trace phishing platform works. And if you have any more questions about that, feel free to shoot an email to the email on the screen will come to me, and I can help give you any more information about that. Let's see. Someone asked if restricting access to the different types of AI would be done at the firewall level. And I know you kind of talked about how you can adjust the settings within the AI tool itself, which makes me think that that's not a firewall thing. But do you know anything more about that?
Again, I personally don't necessarily in terms of configuration and administration specifically, and it may be different from organization to organization based on whatever types of security tools that you may be utilizing. However, if we're talking about things along the lines of a ChatGPT or something that is a specific website or maybe category of website, then it may be at the firewall level or our web proxy or category filtering in order to block the websites which are utilizing open AI things like ChatGPT, blocking that website specifically. That can potentially be done at the firewall level. Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. So if you have a blanket policy to only allow certain AI, is there a way to add some kind of exclusion for Google, since every Google search technically has the AI content in the search results? Like, how do you mitigate your employees using that information or not?
I would probably consider something like that from an oversight perspective. And again, this is why I can speak a little bit on this one because it's not an administrative question. It's a governance question. It's right up my alley. I would maybe try and work in an exception into my policy into that regard. Because I'm not utilizing Google with the built-in AI search results, as you mentioned, in some sort of a way to hopefully, right? I'm not putting account numbers and so forth into it. I'm searching something up generally. And of course, our acceptable use policies generally say that we're supposed to be utilizing the internet for business purposes. So I'm searching on Google for something related to the business that is that is a general type of question, maybe about the business or about my daily work or something of that nature. So I'm not utilizing AI in some sort of way in order to help me accomplish some specific task, like writing a policy. I'm not utilizing Chat GPT in that sort of way. I'm going on and saying onto Google, what would be a good template for an acceptable use policy, and it is coming back to me, and the Gemini response is in the top of that. That to me would be a little bit different than utilizing an actual AI agent, and so that could be an exception that is written into the policy. Specifically how to word that, I don't have that for you right now, but that's kind of how I view that from a governance perspective, and hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, here's one. Are you aware of any financial institutions that are currently using AI to analyze non-public non-public personal information? It seems like most FIs are shying away from this type of usage, which I would definitely agree with.
Yes. I am unaware of any specific financial institutions which are utilizing AI in any sort of specific deep way within their organization, public or internal, in this regard to analyze any type of data necessarily, unless we're talking maybe about logs that just so happens to be built into a third-party platform like a SIM solution or something of that nature. So are they utilizing it to plug in account numbers and so on and so forth? No. And yes, I do
We
agree
hope not.
that a lot of FIs are shying away from this type of usage for right now until we gain a better grasp of what is going on with AI and how that specifically applies to us. If there is some type of a usage like this, I would lean more towards some sort of agentic AI model that is custom built, internal only, stays on our network, and has a very discrete set of permissions and a very discrete set of data sets that we are sending over to it, such as scrubbed financial reports that are that are just transactions only. Again, that we know it's for a given account, but AI knows that it's only for a specific account, but it doesn't know what that account number is. It doesn't know what name is associated with that account or something of that nature, because we're looking for fraud, something like that. And that also brings me back to how we actually may be using AI through a third party that may be looking for fraudulent transactions. But what data are we feeding into that is maybe unknown at this time. But for a specific AI utilizing it, or I'm sorry, a specific FI or financial institution utilizing AI in that way, I do not have direct experience with that from any of my clients.
Okay, I got last one for you. If someone uses some kind of AI to help write their acceptable use policy, is there any recommended way to kind of verify that it has what they need in there versus just trusting the AI?
No, this is where we need to make sure that we have the human element involved. We need to have some sort of an expert, whether that be Trace Security or an internal employee or something of that nature, to kind of help us out and review it and make sure that we're hitting on all cylinders, right? In terms of that policy. Generally speaking, though, when we're talking about that, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of templates that we use, a public use AI such as ChatGPT is going to is going to have access to some of the public use templates that we might use, or some of the generalized information that's out there for these different types of things. And you can actually be pretty specific when when you're having a conversation with AI about a specific, let's say, information security policy. If I go to AI and I say, help me out with writing an information security policy, well, it may give me some sort of a result. But if I say, help me write out an information security policy for a financial institution, it may give me some different responses. If I say, help me write an information security policy for a credit union under NCUA guidelines with specific references to the FFIEC framework, it may give me a totally different type of response. And these are some of the things that we might need to learn ourselves as users of AI in order to get the most out of AI. And those are some of the really key and fun things that I've experienced and had with AI and the usage of AI so far. And hopefully that answers your question.
All right. It looks like that is all the questions we have today. Thank you so much, Jason. And if anyone has any other questions that we didn't answer or you didn't get the full answer that you were looking for, please feel free to email us. We'll make sure we look into that for you.